You ready for another deep dive?
Oh, absolutely. Always up for a deep dive.
All right, well, strap in because today we're traveling back to June 11th, 1955. A day, well, a day forever etched in motorsports history, and not for a good reason. We're talking about the 1955 Le Mans disaster.
Yeah, a real tragedy.
It really made everyone in racing, fans, drivers, everyone really stop and think about just how dangerous this pursuit of speed could be.
In pursuit of speed, that's really the key phrase there. Because 1955, we're talking a whole different ballgame. Not just a race. This was a showdown. Titans,
Right. Ferrari, Jaguar, Mercedes-Benz.
Exactly. Each one pushing their cars, their drivers, everything to the absolute limit. Just a no-holds-barred fight for that top spot.
And the cars back then, I mean, they were basically rockets on wheels, especially compared to what they used to be.
Oh, for sure.
And then you drop all this speed, all this ambition onto a track like Circuit du Soleil. Legendary.
Legendary, yeah, but safe. No way. Not by today's standards, at least. I mean, picture this. Barriers between those roaring engines and the spectators. Practically non-existent in some places.
Yikes.
And the pit lane, forget it. It was a chaotic mess of drivers weaving in and out and these guys refueling with, get this, splash and go methods.
Slash and go.
Literally pouring fuel into these cars, drivers jumping in and out while it's still, a fire hazard.
Wow. That's just, I can't even imagine. But before we get to the main event, let's talk about the drivers.
Absolutely. You had Mike Hawthorne, British driver, behind the wheel of a Jaguar D-Type, known for being, well, how do I put this?
A bit of a daredevil.
That's one way to put it. Aggressive style, always pushing the limits, especially when he was going head-to-head with Juan Manuel Fangio.
Fangio, that name rings a bell. Remind me.
Only one of the greatest drivers of all time, 5-time world champion. In '55, he was driving the Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR. A marvel of engineering for its time, sure, but it also highlighted a big problem as the race went on. See, Jaguar had those fancy new disc brakes. Mercedes, they were still using drum brakes, plus just a single air brake. And that played a pretty big role in the disaster.
It's crazy how these little technical details can make such a huge difference.
I got that right. And caught right in the middle of all this was another Brit, Lance Macklin.
Right, the Austin Healey driver. What was his part in all of this?
He was, well, in a lot of ways, a victim of circumstance. See, his car wasn't as powerful as the Mercedes or the Jaguars, but he was in the wrong place at the worst possible time. It's a tragic story, really. Just goes to show how a split-second decision, a chain reaction, it can have unthinkable consequences.
So we've got these incredible machines, driven by legends, all gunning for the win on this, well, pretty dangerous track. Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and, well, disaster is exactly what they got. Late afternoon, that golden hour of the race, tension is high, everyone on edge. Hawthorne and Fangio are going back and forth for the lead.
I bet.
Just an incredible duel. The crowd's going wild, probably the best racing they've ever seen.
I can only imagine. The noise, the smell of the gasoline.
It was electric. But then, lap 35, everything changes. Hawthorne, in his Jaguar, he's coming into the pits.
Ah, right. Time for that splash and go refueling.
Exactly. Except not so routine this time. Hawthorne, he was eager to get back to it with Fangio. So he makes this sudden, unexpected move, slams on his brakes right in front of Lance Macklin.
Oh no, Macklin in the Austin Healey.
Yep. He had nowhere to go, absolutely nowhere.
So what happened?
Macklin swerved, obviously, trying to avoid Hawthorne's Jaguar. But that put him right in the path of, you guessed it, Pierre Levet.
Levet in the Mercedes, the one with the, the drum brakes.
Yeah, and no time to react. He's coming in at over 120 miles per hour. Can you imagine seeing a car swerve right in front of you at that speed?
I can't even imagine.
Levet's Mercedes, it plows right into the back of Macklin's Austin Healey. The impact, it was like nothing anyone had ever seen. It launched the Mercedes right into the air, sent it flying towards the spectators.
That's the image, isn't it? The one everyone remembers from that day.
It is. But it wasn't just a crash, it was a tragedy. Beyond anything anyone could have imagined.
So the car, Levet's Mercedes, it's airborne, heading straight for the spectators. And there were no real barriers back then, right? Like we have at races today.
No, not at all. This was the time before all those safety measures.
Yeah.
And, when Levet's car went into the crowd, it wasn't just a crash, the car exploded.
Exploded.
It was the magnesium alloy. They used it to make the car lighter, faster, but when it hit, it ignited. The engine, the tires, parts of the body, it just scattered everywhere into the grandstands at an incredible speed. And then the fire. Magnesium, it fueled this inferno that burned for hours.
I can't even begin to imagine what that must have been like for the people there. How many people died that day?
83 spectators. 83. Plus LeVay himself. And hundreds more were injured. It's still the worst disaster in motorsports history. And get this, after the crash, they kept racing.
Wait, they didn't stop the race?
Nope. People said it would have caused panic, made it harder for rescue crews to get through. Others said it was about money, avoiding lawsuits. Whatever the reason, it shows you how different things were back then.
Wow, that's just unbelievable. But it's also incredible to think about how much changed because of that day.
Yeah, everything changed.
Yeah.
Le Mans, the track, it was completely redesigned, new pit lane, barriers to protect the spectators. Everything moved further back, away from the track.
All those safety measures we see now, seat belts, helmets, the fireproof suits, even the barriers, they're all because of what happened at Le Mans in 1955.
Exactly. A heavy price to pay to make things safer. But it wasn't just the track that changed. Mercedes-Benz, they pulled out of racing entirely. Didn't come back for decades.
And the other drivers, the ones who kept racing, how do you think that day affected them?
I'm sure they never forgot it. It made them think, made it real. This line they were walking between winning and, well, something like this happening. It's a tough thing to think about, but important. Because Le Mans in 55, it's not just a history lesson. It's a reminder. It reminds us that pushing the limits, it comes with a cost.
It really makes you think about it, doesn't it? As fans, we love the speed, the excitement, the danger even, but we can't forget about the risks. Can't forget what happened at Le Mans.
That's right. Because people will always want to go faster, push those boundaries.
Yeah.
It's part of what makes motorsport so captivating. But Le Mans, it reminds us that it can't come at the cost of human life. It's a story about tragedy for sure, but also about how we learn and grow from these events. And hopefully it's a story that will continue to shape the sport for the better.